F1 is the pinnacle of motor racing, with only the top 1% making it into the sport. An F1 team must be like a well-oiled machine, from the people changing the tires to the CEO. Helmut Marko and Christian Horner represent this, working together to achieve back-to-back world titles and a genuinely dominant racing season. Even with all this success, though, some cracks are beginning to show, not just between the drivers, but at a senior level as well, with there appearing to be some tension between Helmut Marko and the new CEO of Red Bull. Stick around to find out what is causing the tension and who could be replacing Dr. Marko at Red Bull. With the sad passing of the great Dietrich Mateschitz, Red Bull needed to restructure its operations, with Dietrich's role being divided into 3 separate roles as part of a new leadership team. Franz Václavic has been made CEO of the company's drink business. Alexander Kirkmeyer has been appointed as a chief financial officer, and former RB Leipzig CEO Oliver Mintzlaff is set to oversee Red Bull's F1 team. Mintzlaff is no stranger to sporting environments and is highly successful. Before he transitioned into Red Bull Racing, he was the CEO of RB Leipzig, taking them from the lower leagues of German football to the knockout stages of the Champions League. If you are not a football fan, that is the equivalent of taking Haas from the bottom to competing for the F1 title, which is no mean feat. This is where the problem lies. Mintzlaff is a corporate guy used to structures and processes, which Christian and Marko are not used to, as they have complete autonomy over Red Bull Racing with no interference. It is doubtful that the new CEO will allow this. Marko recently told Bild that Mintzlaff was not at the post-season celebrations. He had announced himself in advance and wanted to stop by as part of his acclimatization to the new position, but he wasn't at the party. Naturally, I knew of him. I knew that Oliver had done a very good job in football in Leipzig and New York. Although I'm neither an expert nor a fan of the sport, Dietrich and I have regularly exchanged ideas on various topics. Marko revealed that the new CEO only had 15 minutes for him. It was more a general meeting over a coffee rather than negotiations about the future of the racing team. There would have been no time for that. We only sat together for 15 minutes. Our biggest plus has always been that we have many bright minds who do not need a meeting with the supervisory board before something is initiated. We'll see what that looks like in the future. How we divide up and what role Mr. Mintzlaff plays in this, we will discuss in the coming weeks. Marko went on to squash rumors of Red Bull leaving F1. No, not at all. No one has to worry that Red Bull will disappear from Formula One. We are far from finished with our mission. Now, he may have spoken about Red Bull leaving, but Marko has also said that he can leave Red Bull at any time if he feels like the team is going in the right direction. I did my job because my connection with Dietrich Mateschitz, a visionary who understood everything in a bigger picture, Marko told Laola One. If the atmosphere no longer suits me, it will not be a problem. I can retire from one day to the next, but the fire in me is still burning. I'm not worried about that. I am independent, so I can leave the team at any time. Marko may want to leave when he wants, but the Austrian may be forced out earlier than he thinks. Reports are circulating that there is tension between Helmut Marko and the new CEO, and as we all know in F1, if there is smoke, there is fire. Bonotto was a good example, and so was the Daniel saga. The cracks appear to be showing, with a source close to Marko saying, according to AS Web, that the relationship between Marko and Mintzlaff is off to a rocky start. The Medium writes, on paper, nothing will change in Marko's role, but Mintzlaff is reportedly not planning to give Marko and team boss Christian Horner as much autonomy as Mateschitz. The main reason behind this rocky start is the collapse of the Porsche and Red Bull partnership. The blame for the failed deal falls firmly at Marko and Christian's feet. Sporting director Laudenbach didn't give a concrete answer about what happened. There is no more to say about that. The topic just didn't materialize. Whether Formula One is now totally out of the picture, Laudenbach rules out. The fact that the cooperation with Red Bull didn't come about doesn't mean that Formula One isn't interesting anyway. It is important that it fits. If that's not the case, then better not at all. With all that being said, Dr. Marko cannot be at Red Bull forever, and it looks like Red Bull has lined up one of F1's favorite Germans, Sebastian Vettel. The former F1 driver retired in 2022 and won't be involved in the 2023 season, but according to Marko, he has been touted as not only joining the Red Bull team, but taking over from his role. Helmut had this to say about the former Red Bull champion. It is not excluded that Vettel will return to a position in management. I am almost 80, so that would be something, said Marko when speaking to Sky Germany. We discussed it, and I think such a position would appeal to him. Vettel has been critical of the F1 world and its impact on the environment, with Marko joking he now has other priorities. That came up in that conversation between us. I'm convinced that the potential and the personality are there, he said. But now we let him plant some trees, and then we'll see what happens. Dr. Marko is a genius and well known throughout the F1 world. He's renowned for being ruthless with F1 drivers, most notably calling the driver at 8 a.m. with a certain Daniel Ricciardo having to lie and say he's in the gym to get the Austrian off his back. But according to a young F1 driver, Helmut is nowhere near as scary as people make him out to be. At the recent FIA prize-giving gala, 13-year-old Enzo Tarvanitschkel was presented with the CIK FIA World Championship trophy by Max Verstappen. The 13-year-old recently signed with the Red Bull Academy and had to meet with Marko. Not only did the 13-year-old not find him intimidating, but he also had some warm words to say, calling him an inspiration. Helmut Marko is a great person, he said. He also has a wonderful career and is driven in F1 and Le Mans, a great and inspiring character when you meet him. The television sometimes misleads you. However, when you meet him, it is very special, and so felt it too. With all this uncertainty around Red Bull, one sure thing is that the exchange with Christian and the FIA president was awkward, with many people cringing throughout the encounter. Red Bull has a pretty hefty bill to pay. You have to pay for it when you win as much as they do. It's very, very special, Horner said at last Friday's FIA prize-giving gala in Bologna. We broke all our own records, and these two guys have been truly amazing this year. Particularly Max has had an outstanding season. Behind the scenes, we had the biggest regulation changes in 40 years, and the whole team in Milton Keynes rose to that challenge magnificently. And when you dominate as Red Bull did in the current season, it appears you don't only get all the teams trying to take you out, but also have the FIA whacking you with a massive bill just to race in 2023. With 17 race wins and 759 points in the season, the Milton Keynes squad will need to fork out a whopping $6,242,636 for its 2023 season. It is broken down into a basic entry fee of $617,687 and $7,411 per point scored, while other teams will be required to pay $6,174 per point. This is exempt from the F1's cost cap. I didn't realize how much we had to pay the FIA for the points. I got the bill the other day and it was incredible, joked Horner, flanked by FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem, the FIA Gala. And at the other end of the spectrum, because it only scored 8 points in 2022, Williams Racing will only need to disperse $667,079 to race in 2023. What do you think? Should the new CEO fire Helmut Marko, or should they keep him?